What's shaking, Chewy Nation? ChewbaccaLemma here, back with another video today with my NFL playoffs 2019-2020 predictions. I'm excited. Hopefully you guys are excited as well. We will be going through the whole playoffs. So we'll be making our guesses, our predictions. Let me know down below a couple things. I would like to know who should be on upset alert. What do you think the upset's going to happen? There's usually one or two, a couple upsets, as well as who is your Super Bowl matchup with the winner. Let me know, and let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be throwing out a lot of numbers in this video, so I don't want to waste any time. We're going to start with Tennessee at New England. Wow, things have changed. Quite a difference a 1 week make with the playoffs. It just changed everything with the way New England loses to Miami. Now they're the 3 seed instead of the 2 seed. No longer get that first round bye. Have to play an extra game if they want to go to the Super Bowl. They gotta go through in this case Tennessee. Now it is at home, so there's that advantage going into Gillette Stadium. You have to believe New England's going to be favored, and they are 4.5 point favorites right now as Vegas has it. So most people are predicting New England to win, but this should definitely be an upset alert here. I feel like Tennessee has been playing really well since Tannehill's taken over as quarterback. They've been playing extremely well. They beat Houston pretty handily. Now, Houston had a lot of their backups in, but Derrick Henry is an absolute stud. There was still quite a lot of starters on the field, so on the defensive side especially. So they're not really on the offensive side, but on the defensive side, there was still some starters on the field, a lot of them, and they just ran all over them. So if Derrick Henry is able to break a couple runs, man, I definitely think Tennessee could win. Just to throw out some numbers, they are pretty much top 3 in every rushing category you look at, which is not surprising for Tennessee. The one thing, now I know Tannehill hasn't played all year, but they're only scoring about 31% of the time on their drives, and New England only allows their opponent to score 19% of the time, which is absolutely absurd. We can talk about New England's defense all day. The defense, I know they just lost to Miami, but don't let one game fool you. This defense is absolutely insane, anchored by the best corner in the league, bar none, in Stephon Gilmore. So I feel like I have to go New England in this matchup. But I do think upset alert right off the bat. Tennessee has been playing well, and New England maybe not as well as they would hope going into the playoffs, but they always seem to show up. So I'll take New England. No upset for me, but if you argue Tennessee, I think you can make arguments that Tennessee they're at least going to be competitive, you would expect. Now we got the Buffalo Bills at the Houston Texans. Now, a little disclaimer, I am a Texans fan, so I'll have to make sure I try to take away my bias. I personally think this game is a complete coin flip. I think Houston is favored by 3 points. I think the teams are pretty evenly matched. It is in Houston. So I feel like Houston should be the favorite because it is in Houston. But man, is this a coin flip. I'm really torn here. I think it could go both ways. I personally think Buffalo is not a terrible matchup for the Texans. I think the Texans probably should win this game. But with the weapons, especially if J.J. Watt comes back, you have... this is early in the week. Will Fuller suits up, I hope, and as a Texans fan, J.J. Watt, and having these guys back, Texans should be the favorite. And in my personal opinion, I think they should win. But Buffalo has one of the best defenses. Not the best, that's in their same division, but one of the best defenses in the entire league. They have a decent rushing attack as well. And they run the ball a lot. They're one of the most rushed teams in the NFL. So they're definitely a really solid enough offense. Not great. It's not a great offense by any stretch, but their defense is insanely good. So I'm expecting a lower scoring game. But I do think the quarterback play goes in the way of the Texans. And even though I do believe this should be a good game, I think it will be a low-scoring game. I believe the Texans will come out victorious, but it's basically a coin flip. I think whoever wins this game is going to have a heck of a tough matchup going into Baltimore if New England does end up winning. So going into Baltimore, it's going to be insanely tough for either team, but we'll see. Buffalo did play Baltimore earlier in the year and played them pretty tough. Houston maybe not so tough, but we'll see. We may see we're going to see most likely a rematch between Baltimore and Houston, or Buffalo and Baltimore if New England takes care of business against Tennessee. But in this case, I'll take the Houston Texans in a really ugly 20-17 type of game. Next up, we got the Vikings at the Saints. So this is one of those games that obviously the Saints are favored. I think they're like a 7. I feel like I should look. They're a 7.5 point favorite against the Minnesota Vikings. So I can't really find anybody going for the Minnesota Vikings, but I will go ahead and throw out some things. They are actually pretty good on offense. They're scoring on 41% of their drives, which is 6th in the NFL. They have a crazy good rushing attack. Kirk Cousins is formidable. I'm not saying he's amazing. I think he's underrated, but I think that contract just makes him, he's overpaid, but I think he's personally underrated. I think he gets a lot of a bad rep for a lot of things, and sometimes rightfully so. But the New Orleans Saints are very, very good. They're at home, which is always difficult to win at home. I mean, they just don't lose too often. In the playoffs, I just don't see how you could take the Vikings in this game. But I will say this, if the Vikings are able to run the ball, and they run a lot, if they're able to run the ball and keep the ball away from the Saints, which I think they will be able to do decently effective, I think 7.5 points seems a little high to me. I know it's at home. I feel like this could be a little bit closer. Nobody's taking the Vikings in this game. I don't think it's a blowout. I think the Vikings play them tough, but I do still think the Saints win because the Saints they're the better team, and they're at home. So I'll take them. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings do control the clock and try. They'll at least try, and we'll see if the Saints are able to slow them down. I believe the Saints have a very good rushing defense, so we'll see if they're able to continue that against one of the best rushing attacks. It's strength versus strength. We'll see which one comes ahead. Finally, for the wild card weekend, we have the Seattle Seahawks at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, it is very, very popular, from what I can tell, to take the Seattle Seahawks in this game. Seattle has everybody I've seen has taken them. They played well. They're 1-11-5. They probably should have won against the 49ers. There's some calls that went both ways, but that pass interference call, how do they not review that at least? Man, he was tackling the guy. But anyways, I think this game is one of those games that you think that Philadelphia is not good, and you think Seattle is maybe a little bit better than what they really are. I'm not saying Seattle is not amazing, not great. I'm not saying they're not good. They're not great. They have MVP candidate, probably should get more consideration in Russell Wilson. Outside of that, I'm not really sure how good the team is around him. I actually don't think it's that great. I think it's just a testament to how good Russell Wilson is. Philadelphia, same thing you could say on the offensive side. There's not a whole lot of talent. Carson Wentz is he's amazing. I'm a believer in Carson Wentz. He's great. But I do think this is actually a pretty close game, and I'm actually going to take the home team. I'm taking the Eagles to beat the Seahawks in a minor upset. This is technically an upset, but it's basically a coin flip. Seattle is favored at this moment, so barely an upset. I'll take the Philadelphia Eagles. There's not much else to say. I think they're actually I think this game, rightfully so, should be a coin flip. I think both teams are fine. They're not great, and I don't think too highly of either team, but I think the quarterbacks are absolutely incredible. Two of the best quarterbacks in the league. It'll be interesting to see which one is able to carry his team to the to the next round, because that's basically what's going to happen, because there's not much else around them. So we'll see which quarterback is able to prevail. I think the Eagles in this case, even though I love Russell Wilson, I do think he's a better quarterback. I'm going to take Carson Wentz and company to take this. Divisional round, so wild card in the books, and because New England did beat Tennessee, they will go to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, if Tennessee won, this would change this a lot of bit, with who plays who, because they are the 6 seed, 3 seed. Okay, whatever, you know that. So we have New England going to Arrowhead, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, this game. This is a tough one. Now, I'm really tempted to take New England because I've learned my lesson. You never go against New England. Though I almost took Tennessee to beat them. I'm really close. I might change it. I'm going with it, but I'm close on that one. In Arrowhead, New England. This one is tough because I believe that there's just some sort of factor that you just got to give New England the edge because it's the playoffs and they'll find a way to win. But as good as that defense is, and it's amazing, I feel like the offense is just not good. I don't think the offense is very good. The defense is one of the best of all time. I just want to look at the numbers real quick. New England has almost doubled their opponents in points scored. They've only allowed 225 points in the entire year, which is first in the NFL. They've allowed the least amount of yards. They're almost first or second in just about every defensive category that you can come up with. They're absolutely insane. Their opponents only score on 19% of their drives, which is first in the NFL. Yeah, they're absolutely incredible on the defensive side, which I've already said, Stephon Gilmore, the best corner in the league. But there is just so many weapons on Kansas City. And even though I do think New England will score on that defense, I don't think they can score enough to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Would I be surprised if New England won? Of course not. I think Kansas City will be a slight favorite, a few points, 3-4 points at home against New England, assuming New England wins, and we'll see how good they look against Tennessee. That could always change things. But I think they'll be a slight favorite against New England, and I expect this time to Kansas City Chiefs to beat New England. Please. I'm sick of New England. I'm sorry. I really don't care. I don't care because, we'll talk about Texans soon. I'm not sure it matters for my fanhood which team wins this, but we'll see. I'll go with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now we got the Texans at the Baltimore Ravens. Now I'll admit a little bit. I'm rooting for the Titans to win because that means the Texans will go to Arrowhead instead of Baltimore, and I would rather play the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. But given that I don't think that will happen, I am taking the Texans to lose against the Baltimore Ravens. Spoilers, I think this is a mismatch on so many different levels. The offense, Baltimore has one of the best, probably the best offense by a lot of the numbers. They're the number one offense in the league and one of the best defenses in the league. So that helps when you talk about mismatches. When Houston is middle of the pack on a lot of things, pretty much everything. They're kind of middle of the road. They're, the score percentage, their offense, rushing, passing, everything's kind of in the middle, as well as they're actually getting outgained and outscored in this season. So they really haven't been too convincing. They do find a way to win those close games. They've had a lot of close games and they've won them. And I do think this game will be more competitive than the last game. But that's not saying much when the last game, I believe, was 41-7. So I will take Baltimore to win. I'm sure they'll be a 7.5, 8.5 point favorite in this game. They're going to be a big favorite, which is a huge favorite in the NFL. They should be a big favorite against Houston, maybe even more than that. I'm not sure. And I do think they'll take care of business. I have no reason to believe that they won't. Buffalo's a better matchup Buffalo would have a better chance to beat Baltimore if they end up winning that game. But I still think Baltimore wins this game, no matter who they face in this round. I'll take the Baltimore Ravens to advance. Next up, we got the Saints, who took care of business against the Vikings, I say. And then now they have to go to Green Bay. Now, is this the worst? Now, I haven't looked. Is this the worst 13-3 team we've ever had in the NFL? I personally think it is. Maybe that's recency biased, maybe a little bit. They don't seem good to me. They find a way to win. Props. They do. I'm just looking at some numbers here. They're middle of the pack in offense. Their defense is, again, kind of middle of the pack. Everything is kind of, somehow they find a way to win. You got to give them credit, but you look, they don't turn the ball over that much. I think that's probably the big difference. They got a plus 12 turnover differential. They have the least amount of interceptions in the league, which is no surprise. Not really surprising when you have Aaron Rodgers, who's been protecting the ball. Maybe a little too much, a little too safe. But you look at it, everything is middle of the pack. Their rushing is middle of the pack. Their passing is middle of the pack. Their scoring percentage middle of the pack. They score a little bit more than their opponent. a decent amount more, but it's just they've allowed more yards than they've had on offense. I really don't know how this team is 13-3. I'll admit it. The only thing I can say positive about this Green Bay pack, I mean, there's a lot of things you can say positive, but the one thing in this specific matchup is it's in Green Bay, in the playoffs. So you think that they will be a slight underdog, but they won't be too heavy of an underdog. New Orleans should, I think, be the favorite in this game, assuming they beat the Vikings. We'll see how they look in that game, but I think New Orleans will be the favorite. It will be a close one. New Orleans will not be a heavy favorite. It will be a couple points. But it's going to be New Orleans by 3 points. I think it's going to be close. And I'm not going to be surprised if Green Bay wins because it's at Green Bay. Their only loss at home this year was to Philadelphia. But when you only have 3 losses, not going to have a lot of losses at home anyway. I don't know. They got blown out by the 49ers. I just do not believe. I think the Saints are a way better team. And again, maybe it's just that 49ers game that's in the back of my mind. And I just don't believe in them at all because of that game. A 13-3 team getting destroyed like that, I can't buy in. I'm sorry, Green Bay fans. Maybe prove me wrong. You know, some people are gonna have Green Bay in the Super Bowl. Probably only fans of Green Bay. I know they're the 2 seed, but I haven't seen a 13-3 team that, in my opinion, that just doesn't look 13-3. And I'll take the Saints to win. Final game to wrap up the divisional round is the Philadelphia Eagles at the San Francisco 49ers. So this game here may not happen. It could be Seattle, of course, which would also be very interesting. Seattle at the 49ers would be a great game. Would love to see that game as well. But we got the Eagles at the 49ers. So let's look at the numbers. The 49ers, one of the best offenses and one of the best defenses in the league. They're very similar to Baltimore in that way. Their point score, they've outscored their opponents by almost 170 points this year, which is absolutely absurd. 170 divided by 16, more than 10 points a game. That is crazy. They score on 44% of their drives and only allow their opponent to score on 29% of their drives, which is crazy, which you would expect that given the point differential. But their rushing attack is in every stat either first or second, pretty much. Their passing attack is a middle of the road, but they don't throw it that much. So that's actually pretty good considering their yardage is actually kind of middle of the road, given they don't really pass that much. They have one of, if not probably the best pass defenses in the entire NFL, as well as a good rushing defense. This team is really, really good, is what I'm saying. They are... Jimmy Garoppolo is doing what needs to be done. They're obviously a heavy running team, which I said. Picked up Emmanuel Sanders, made moves to try to help the offense, and the defense has been just playing amazing. So they could have definitely lost that game in Seattle, but playing in Seattle is so tough. They did end up winning. A good win there. I do believe they'll beat the Eagles here, or the Seattle Seahawks if they play them. That game, I think Seattle would have a little bit better chance to win just because of the familiarity with the teams. But given that this is the matchup I have here, I'll take the 49ers to win. I personally think, as much as I believe the Eagles will beat Seattle, I think that's going to be a good game, and I'll take the Eagles. I think this is a mismatch in a lot of areas, and I do like Carson Wentz, like I said, but I'll take the 49ers to take care of business here against the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, pretty boring. We got the 1 versus the 2 seed, the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now I just got to talk. I haven't really talked all about. I know they said they had the best offense, best defense, one of the best, and that's just to put a bow around it. The Baltimore Ravens have the most passing touchdowns in the NFL. They have the second most rushing touchdowns in the NFL, the most rushing yards in the NFL. They have one of the fewest passing yards. They're not a heavy passing team, obviously, but they don't really turn the ball over. They have a +10 turnover differential, which is pretty good. So overall, points scored, they're first in the NFL. Points allowed, they're third, meaning they've outscored their opponents by almost twice as much as they scored. They're absolutely blowing people out. They blew out the Texans. They did. They blew them out. I watched it. I watched a lot of that game. I shouldn't have. That was ugly. But they've just been blowing people out. Their only 2 losses came back-to-back against Kansas City in Kansas City, I believe, and the Cleveland Browns. So they had those back-to-back losses ages ago. They are just clicking on every cylinder. I don't even think I used that correctly. Just everything is working for this team. One of the best offenses, one of the best defenses in the NFL. This team is one of the best teams that I've seen in recent memory. They're really good. I think that's a very good analysis. They're very good. MVP Lamar Jackson, though I do think Russell Wilson deserves a little more credit. But Lamar Jackson, MVP coming. The only thing I'll mention, and I hate to say this because this is true of any team, and it's always a bad thing to say, but barring an injury, this is the favorite to come out of the AFC, and it's really hard to. I wanted to convince myself that somebody else because everybody's taking Baltimore, but you look at the numbers. The only team that I think could potentially beat them is the New England Patriots just because of the New England it factor. But in this season, man, they're just so good. So barring an injury, which I've seen no signs to think that Lamar Jackson's going to get injured. He's been taken care of. They really haven't taken any heavy hits or anything. I don't see any reason to believe that's going to happen. So I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens to come out of the AFC. Even as mainstream, as boring as that is, you look at the numbers, can't really convince yourself that another team should come out of the AFC. So I'll take the Baltimore Ravens. And the other championship game, we have the Saints at the 49ers. So I talked about the 49ers offense and defense, absolutely crazy good. The Saints points scored, one of the best in the league, the third most points scored, only behind San Francisco and Baltimore. So they're very good on the offense side. Defensively, pretty solid. Rushing against the rushing attack, they're very good. So we'll see, who prevails there if this matchup does end up happening. But they're very good at protecting the ball. Obviously, when you have Drew Brees, they're best with only 8 turnovers this year. They have a plus 15 turnover differential. 8. They've only turned the ball over 8 times. How crazy is that? In 16 games. They score on 46% of their drives, which is one of the best in the NFL. San Francisco is pretty close as well at 44%. So they're one of the best. Their defense, middle of the road, I think, on a lot of things. Their rush defense pretty good. So I do think the Saints are a formidable opponent, and I think taking them to go to the Super Bowl is a popular opinion. Pretty popular. But this is at San Francisco. It's a home game. They will have it at home. So I believe, I do know, they will be favored in this game. San Francisco, I don't see any reasons they won't be. They're going to be favored. It will be a few points. Vegas will have it pretty close, I think. This game will be, I think, an amazing matchup. As much as I love Drew Brees, and I wouldn't mind him winning another Super Bowl, going out on top, holding that Lombardi trophy, and then retiring, that would be awesome. Always cool to see quarterbacks go out like that, like John Elway. But I got to take San Francisco here. I don't know. I just look at the numbers. San Francisco, I think this defense is crazy good. The offense, we'll see if the rushing attack can work against New Orleans, which I think it will be decently effective enough. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a decently high scoring game as well, with a couple key stops, and I think the 49ers will be up to the task to do that. So I'll take the 49ers to win this game. Again, another one where if you took the Saints to win, I'm not going to fight you on it. I think it's going to be close. It could go either way, but you look at the offense and defense, much better on the 49ers side between the two units together than the Saints. Saints have a solid defense. Definitely, their offensive ranks have been very good, like I said, but I just think this is San Francisco's year. I'll take them to go to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl time! The Ravens versus the 49ers rematch from a few years ago. I'm excited to see if this happens. 49ers-Ravens rematch, or, if the Patriots make a run, it'd be cool to see Garoppolo versus his old team. There's a few matchups that could be really, really interesting. If the Saints go, Breeze, this is his last year. Does he end on the high? There's a lot of cool storylines that could happen, but I have the Ravens versus the 49ers. The numbers back up this matchup, I think, pretty well. Both some of the best offenses and defenses in the league, with Baltimore just having absurd offensive numbers and really good defensive numbers as well. And San Francisco, maybe not absurd numbers, but their offense and defense also pretty pretty darn good. The thing that just sticks out to me is, and again, I know it's just looking at score percentage, not necessarily always scoring touchdowns, though the Ravens do score a lot of touchdowns, is the Ravens score on over 50% of their drives, which is absurd. The 49ers, I think, go like 44%, and they're like 5th or 6th in the league. The Ravens at almost 52%. They score so much. They have one of the best rushing attacks in the league. Their passing attack is very efficient. I think they have the most passing touchdowns in the league. So maybe not the yards wise, but they pass when they need to. And Lamar Jackson, MVP Lamar Jackson, has been incredible this year. So assuming he makes it to the Super Bowl, which I have no reason not to believe that, and both health on everything, I'm just assuming no injuries. This, I think, is the matchup. Ravens versus the 49ers. Of course, the Saints could sneak in there. Not really sneak. The Saints could easily get in there. The Patriots, we'll see, where they end up. But I think this is the matchup. Kind of boring, 1 versus 1. I didn't go too much out on a limb, but I just think the numbers back up this matchup. Ravens versus 49ers. Ravens with the win for me. I'm going to take the team that all numbers are pointing to and not try to get too cute. I think the 49ers can definitely play them well. They played them well the last time they played. I think it's going to, still be a good game. But, man, this Ravens team is the best team in the league. And assuming no, sort of games where they get out-coached, I think Harbaugh's a great coach. And again, the injury thing, assuming that, I think this is the best team, and they're going to be favored in every game, as they should be. Every game through the Super Bowl, they will be favored. So I expect them to win, and I will take them to win. The Ravens are my Super Bowl champions. Don't forget to let me know down below an upset that you see coming this year, as well as your Super Bowl matchup and who you have winning that game. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of cool matchups this year. I'm really excited about this playoffs. We'll see. Maybe the Ravens will just blow by everybody. I don't know. But I think it's going to be a really fun playoff. So let me know that down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for the support. Remember, these are my opinions. I tried to be as unbiased as possible, but I understand I'm going to upset some of you Packer fans or Patriots fans if you not picking them in the Super Bowl. I understand that, especially if you're a Patriots fan. You always figure out a way to win. If you pick against them, that's silly. It may be silly. It may be. But let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for the support. Like the video if you enjoy the commentary / just me. I don't know. And subscribe if you haven't already. You guys are great. That's all I got. ChewbaccaLemma.